Hello and welcome to episode 479 of the Daily Sales Message Podcast, where every single day I share a piece of simple and actionable advice that's designed to help you feel more confident and sell more stuff too. Now, in today's episode, we're focusing on clear sales message, having a clear sales message. And there's a couple of things that I would do to confuse fewer people when you're talking to them. Confuse fewer people. If you're confusing people with your offering, they're not quite getting it. Here's a couple of tips, a couple of things that I would do to simplify things. First of all, I would focus on one problem that you solve, one main problem, and one main avatar, one main ideal client that you do that for. So for me, I work with B2B founders and they have a hard to explain offering. So simplify it down. One problem, one avatar. That's the first thing. The second thing I would do is to explain how you do what you do in the simplest way possible. Either that's through a methodology, a process of working, how you approach things, or it could be, in my case, literally the name of my business, which is we do this by creating a clear sales message. Clear sales message, the terminology used there is designed in such a way that you can guess at what you think that is, and you should be right, or at least in the ballpark, which is fundamental to my success. So I would talk about one problem for one buyer type. I'd be very clear on how I do what I do. And the final thing that I would reference in my communication is the problem that I solve to make it connectable. The problem that I solve, or the trigger that leads somebody to me. So if you've ever struggled to explain yourself in a networking pitch, or if you've ever been asked what you do at a party and you just can't do it, or you don't know what to say in your social media, blah, 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 anything that's going to make it real world for the person, the problem they solve, or the trigger that's going to lead them to needing you, including that in your messaging is also going to help to confuse fewer people and make it much easier to buy from you. Those are just a couple of tips. There's dozens and dozens of things that I would do if I was creating a clear sales message for you, and about 36 core questions that we'd have to answer about your business. And I work with lots of consultancy clients that do just that in project-based work. But having a clear sales message is very important if you want your buyers to understand what you're selling to them so they can actually buy it. It seems flippant, but if you have a hard to explain offering, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Right, that's it for this episode of the podcast. Tomorrow in episode 480, here is why your conversations are going nowhere. Here is why your conversations are going nowhere. There's a couple of pitfalls that we have in a selling conversation, which means we don't really get to sell. It's just a conversation rather than a selling conversation. But I'll cover a couple of those pitfalls tomorrow, and more importantly, what you can do about them. Thank you for listening or watching all the way to the end. I appreciate it. I'll catch you tomorrow for another fast talking edition of the Daily Sales Message.